The fluorescent lights hummed softly in the hospital corridor as Sarah Chen wiped down the nurse's station for the third time that evening. At 58 she had been a nurse for 32 years and her hands moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who had long ago made peace with the rhythm of night shifts. Her daughter Emma was getting married in 6 weeks. Sarah had been saving for 2 years to help with the wedding, but 3 days ago her car had died completely. The mechanic had given her a number that made her stomach drop. Now she was looking at her phone trying to compose a text to her cousin Michael, who had offered to lend her money if she ever needed it. She typed carefully. Her fingers were not as nimble as they used to be on these small screens. Michael, the first, hate to ask but I need help. My car broke down and I need $3,000 for repairs. Emma's wedding is coming and I'm stretched thin. Can you help me? I'll pay you back monthly. I promise. Sarah. She pressed send and set the phone down, feeling that particular shame that comes from having to ask for help even from family. 20 minutes later her phone buzzed. Sarah picked it up expecting Michael's response. Instead she saw a name she didn't recognize. James Whitmore. The text read simply, "Who is this?" Sarah's heart began to pound. She picked up her phone with trembling hands and checked her sent messages. Her breath caught in her throat. In her contacts Michael Chen and James Whitmore were right next to each other. She had sent her desperate plea to James Whitmore. The James Whitmore, the CEO of Whitmore Medical Group, which owned the hospital where she had worked for the past 12 years. Her face flushed hot with embarrassment. She had never met him in person. He was the kind of executive who existed only in emails and policy announcements. She quickly typed back, "I am so sorry, Mr. Whitmore. I meant to text my cousin. Please disregard. This is Sarah Chen. I'm a nurse at Whitmore Memorial. I apologize for the confusion." She set the phone down and covered her face with her hands. Of all the people to accidentally beg for money from, she had chosen her boss's boss. She wanted to disappear. Her phone buzzed again. "Ms. Chen. No apology necessary. I hope your situation works out. If you need anything, the Employee Assistance Program is available. Best wishes, James Whitmore." It was a polite, professional response. Sarah felt a small measure of relief. At least he hadn't seemed angry. She put her phone away and tried to focus on her work, though her cheeks still burned with embarrassment. 3 hours later she was in the pediatric wing checking on a premature baby girl who had been born that evening. The little one was stable but needed monitoring through the night. Sarah had always loved the quiet moments with the babies. They reminded her of when Emma was small. Those late-night feedings when the world was silent and it was just the two of them. She was adjusting the infant's blanket when she heard quick footsteps in the hallway. Dr. Patricia Moore appeared in the doorway, her face serious. "Sarah, I need you to come with me right now. We have a situation." Sarah's nursing instincts kicked in immediately. She followed Moore down the hallway at a brisk pace. "What's going on?" "Young mother came in an hour ago. 22 years old. She delivered a healthy baby boy, but she's hemorrhaging badly. We're taking her into emergency surgery right now. The baby is fine, but there's no father present and no other family. She gave us a name before we put her under. James Whitmore." She said to call James Whitmore about the baby. Sarah felt her stomach drop for the second time that evening. "James Whitmore, our CEO. That's what," she said. "We've been trying to reach him, but it's the middle of the night. He finally answered and he's on his way. Should be here in 20 minutes. I need you to stay with the baby until he arrives. Can you do that?" Sarah nodded, though her mind was reeling. What was happening? Why would a young mother name the CEO of the hospital as her emergency contact? Was this his child? His grandchild? None of it made sense. She returned to the nursery where a tiny baby boy had just been brought in. He was perfect, pink and healthy with a full head of dark hair. Sarah picked him up gently and settled into the rocking chair. The baby made small snuffling sounds and she held him close, feeling that ancient instinct that every nurse who works with newborns knows. The fierce protective love for these tiny vulnerable beings. 25 minutes later she heard a commotion in the hallway. Voices speaking urgently. Then a man appeared in the doorway of the nursery. Sarah recognized him from the photo on the hospital website, though he looked different in person. James Whitmore was probably in his early 60s, tall with silver hair and the kind of presence that comes from years of authority. But right now his face was pale with worry and his eyes were frightened. "Where is she? Where's Katie?" "Doctor." Moore was behind him. "She's in surgery, Mr. Whitmore. She's getting the best care possible. The baby is right here." James turned and saw Sarah holding the infant. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and looked down at the baby in her arms. His expression shifted from fear to something else entirely. Wonder mixed with overwhelming emotion. "May I?" he asked quietly. Sarah stood and carefully transferred the baby into his arms. James Whitmore, CEO of a multi-million-dollar medical corporation, took the infant with surprising tenderness and sank down into the rocking chair. Tears began streaming down his face. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "I'm your grandpa. I'm here now. I'm here." Sarah stepped back, giving him space. But she stayed in the room. She had questions, but they could wait. Right now this man needed to hold his grandchild while his daughter was fighting for her life in surgery. After several long minutes, James looked up at her. His eyes were red but calmer. "I didn't know," he said softly. "Katie and I haven't spoken in 3 years. We had a terrible fight when she told me she was dropping out of college. I said things I shouldn't have said. She left and I was too proud to reach out. Too stubborn. And now," his voice broke. Sarah moved closer and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Your daughter is strong. She brought a healthy baby into the world. That takes tremendous strength. Dr. Moore is the best surgeon we have. Katie is in good hands." James nodded but kept his eyes on the baby. "She named him Michael," he said, reading the card on the bassinet. "That was my father's name." They sat in silence for a while. Sarah checked the baby's vital signs and made notes on the chart. James just held his grandson and rocked slowly back and forth. "You're Sarah Chen," he said suddenly. "You sent me that text earlier." Sarah felt her face flush again. "Yes. I'm so sorry about that, Mr. Whitmore. It was an accident." "James," he said. "Please call me James. And don't apologize. Do you know what I was doing when I got your text? I was sitting in my study at home going through old photos of Katie. Wondering if I'd ever see her again. Wondering if I'd ruined the most important relationship in my life over my own stubborn pride." He looked up at Sarah. "Your text reminded me that people need help sometimes. That asking for help takes courage. And then 2 hours later I got the call about Katie. If I hadn't been awake, if I hadn't been thinking about her already, I might have missed the call entirely." Sarah felt tears prickling her own eyes. "Sometimes things happen the way they're supposed to," she said softly. They waited together through the long hours of the night. Sarah brought James coffee and made sure the baby was fed and comfortable. They talked quietly about children and mistakes and the complicated love between parents and their grown kids. James told her about Katie's mother, who had passed away 5 years ago. How he had buried himself in work afterward. How he had pushed Katie away when she needed him most. Sarah told him about Emma and the wedding, and yes, about the broken car. James listened with the kind of attention that made her feel truly heard. When Dr. Moore finally appeared in the doorway at 4 in the morning, her smile told them everything they needed to know before she spoke. "She's going to be fine. She came through beautifully. She's in recovery now. You can see her soon." James closed his eyes and held his grandson closer. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." An hour later, Sarah wheeled the baby's bassinet into Katie's recovery room. The young woman was pale but awake. When she saw her father holding her son, she began to cry. "Dad," she said, "you came." "Of course I came," James said, his own voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Can you forgive me?" "I already have," Katie said. "I'm sorry too." Sarah quietly backed out of the room, giving them their privacy. She had 1 more hour left on her shift. She was tired, but it was the good kind of tired. The kind that comes from witnessing something important. The next day, Sarah received a call from the hospital's Human Resources Department. She was being given a raise and a bonus. The note said it came with appreciation for her exceptional care and dedication. The amount was exactly $3,000. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she now recognized. "Thank you for taking care of my family last night. Your cousin Michael called me this morning. He's a good man. He told me what happened. Consider your car situation handled. Also, I'd be honored if you'd save a dance for an old fool at your daughter's wedding." I hear there's nothing quite like celebrating love with people who understand what really matters. With gratitude, James. Sarah sat down in her kitchen and cried. Not from sadness or embarrassment, but from the overwhelming sense that sometimes kindness comes back to us in unexpected ways. That sometimes our mistakes lead us exactly where we need to be. That we're all just human beings trying our best and occasionally needing someone to remind us what really matters. Love, family, forgiveness, connection. 6 weeks later at Emma's wedding, Sarah did save that dance. And when James Whitmore showed up with his daughter Katie and baby Michael in tow, nobody asked why the CEO of the hospital was there. They just saw a grandfather holding his grandchild and smiling like he'd been given the greatest gift in the world. Because he had been. And so had Sarah. Sometimes a message sent to the wrong person turns out to be exactly the right message after all.